Well, as you guys know, I like to do a video of my blog posts for those who like to listen. So let's talk about an integrated life from the TheAgileVC number 11. What is authenticity? Well, I've been meditating harder these days on the entire idea of authenticity and a full human being. For some of you guys have heard me say these things before. I believe that all of us are spiritual beings sitting inside meat bags on a spiritual journey of discovery. For many, they never realize their full potential. They squander their limited time. They self-constrain due to excuses. And for many, they never fully become them. And so I've been meditating on this idea for a while, guys, and I wanted to discuss this idea of autism. And the fact that I've never discussed it before is something new to me. See, I'm on the spectrum, now officially labeled ASD. I think it was 2021 when they did that, or Autism Spectrum Disorder, Level 1. And the medical bodies are slowly removing the classification, high functional autism, which is apparently what I have, as I went to a clinician in 2012 and went through a battery of examinations, and they did prove to me that I am what I say I am. I am a high functional autist. Not that any of you guys care, but it's something that's been useful for me in explaining who I am and why I am the way that I am. This week, I've decided on two things: to finally write about autism, mostly for my own sake, and number two, to stop self-constraining my desire to write stuff in short form, even though the thesis of my blog was long form. And I've been struggling with this because I have a lot of ideas that come out of my brain and I want to write them down, but then I self-constrain and I say, well, the blog was all about long form, so I need to make it long. Well, I'm going to stop that. So, am I superhuman? Not really. I have extreme coping mechanisms. High-functioning autism doesn't mean that you have less problems than anybody else. It just means that we've learned to create complex coping mechanisms to look like we're, quote, normal. For high-functioning autists, imagine a duck sailing smoothly across the water. What you don't see is the frantic little legs that are paddling just to keep shit straight. This is essentially me in a nutshell. I'm always on edge, and I'm always running 12 cylinders at 110%. Sometimes I tell people I have the strength of 3 men. It's really just the fact that my brain will never turn off and is always moving at 800 miles per hour. So what are my struggles as a high-functioning autist? Well, number one, it's social anxiety. During in-person group meetings and settings, I often have to excuse myself at timely moments to rest my brain. As an agile coach and trainer, the breaks between meetings and between workshops are lifesavers. You guys have no idea. I need the mental rest. Number two, patterns. Everywhere. I see them like Neo sees the Matrix code. My brain is trained on patterns. It makes the brain active all the time. This distinct trait keeps my brain in overdrive most of the day, and I'll always be mentally tired before physical exhaustion. A small side note on this that's not in the blog is that I first realized this when I was in middle school. For some reason, around middle school, I guess when you hit puberty, or when superheroes get their powers during puberty, I suppose, middle school, I was inundated by patterns. I just saw them everywhere, and it was an overwhelming thing. So much so that I actually had to go to counseling in middle school because my parents and my teachers didn't really know what to do with me. Number three, repetition, repeating, repetition, repeating, cyclically, all the time. I love repetition. It's kind of what autists do. My music playlist is about 30 songs. It's simply a collection of music that's imprinted on me during an emotional moment in time in the past. There's no specific genre to my music list. The songs chose me, and so I saved it. And it just becomes part of the playlist. I have music dating back to the 90s, and yes, one, maybe even two of those songs are Nickelback. Next, number four, telling the truth. Sometimes, probably when I shouldn't. This is part of my lizard brain that compels me to say the silent part out loud. In most cases, it's better to keep it in your brain. I've learned to cope with this social dysfunction by adding intonation into my speech and play it off as a joke. The problem is that it's usually said in a deadpan, dry humor monotone, and usually still is relatively awkward. I am the type of person to chuckle, not laugh, but chuckle at a funeral. Number six, overthinking social settings. Solving social problems at a party isn't something that most people do. For me, calculus is required when I'm calculating how to engage. It just seems and feels like I'm never in sync with the rest of the group. I've learned to just jump into groups, but it still doesn't make it easy to introduce myself or to go into social settings. Number 7, I prefer to be alone, and I generally don't like to be touched at all. I've learned in life that physical touch is important to people. I've trained myself to calculate the appropriate amount of touch, to not seem awkward, especially if it's a social setting with family. When it comes to family, hugs are generally part of the equation. Number 8, focus and care. I'm intensely focused on things that I'm interested in. Hyper-focused, actually. I don't mind not eating if I'm engrossed in a subject or learning something new. This limits my capacity for other things, but I prefer it this way. On the flip side of that coin, if it's not something I care about, I really don't care about it. This also goes for relationships, creating a very small circle around me. It's not that I don't care. I do. I just don't have the emotional nor mental capacity to manage any more relationships. Number 9, coping mechanisms galore. To act and look normal in society isn't hard. You just have to be who you are. Or at least that's what it looks like from the outside. One of the hardest things that I've had to deal with, especially over the last decade, is the unbelief from others that I'm actually on the spectrum because it looks like I have my shit together. Or rather, that I even have these types of struggles. The honest truth is that you have really no idea how labyrinthian and complex my thousands of coping mechanisms are to look as put together as I am. It's a good thing I've never tried hard drugs. I'd probably get addicted to leaving this world. And number 10, epic burnout. The worst of all these coping mechanisms and paddling like a madman are the epic burnout moments. As a child, this can reveal itself like a tantrum out of nowhere. One moment, the child is playing peacefully and then maybe talking to themselves in a heightened sense of imaginary play. The next moment, they're having an epic breakdown of massive proportions. So what happened? For the high-functioning autists, some outside variable interrupted their well-crafted world and took such mental willpower to produce stability in. Since they're paddling like crazy underneath it all to keep it all together, sometimes a simple input to their system can throw a wrench in the entire gearing mechanisms. You don't just slow down. You have epic failure. For me, my experience with this has dipped me into depression in the past, and I've actually created videos on this. You guys can check that out on my playlist on YouTube. Maybe I'll write on those experiences a little more in the future. So things are moving faster now. The world is moving faster now than it ever has. In some ways, it seems like things could be spinning out of control. The social apparatus being marketed to us makes us feel like the world is going insane. Maybe it always has been. Regardless, being true to yourself is more and more important. Social institutions are eroding away. Social constructs are being flexed and fractured, and the ideas of identity are hitting the mainstream. And certainly, there's a lot of the crazy things that are happening out there. I'm also almost finished with my 365 Stoic devotional series on YouTube. It's about time to pick up another series, experiment, or backlog item. I've had a great time creating 366 videos for this. It's been taken a great amount of focus, and it's required my greatest perseverance on a topic, and I'm thankful that we are at the end. While I was thinking about what subject to do next, I figured I should unshackle myself from my own self-constraint of only making this newsletter long form. I considered that I might lose some of the 23,000 wonderful souls that have subscribed so far, but this is fine. I believe that it's more valuable for me to write when I have the urge to write, not forcing to make a whole narrative story out of it. I'll be okay, if you guys will be okay. So, what's the question? It's what is authenticity? Be more of yourself this year. Embrace who you are. Love who you are. I'm learning to love myself better with you. All the best.